So, let's go. Number 1, Venus. You always hear that Venus is Earth's twin. Same size, same rocky bones, right next door. That's the trick. Because the moment you arrive, Venus does something no other planet in this video bothers to do. It kills you 3 different ways at the exact same time. Start with the air. It isn't really air, it's carbon dioxide, thick and heavy, and it's pressing down on you at 93 times the pressure you feel right now. Think about the deepest you've ever been in a swimming pool, that ache in your ears at the bottom. Now go down almost a kilometer into Black Ocean, where submarines start to worry. That's the weight sitting on your chest the second you stand up on Venus. You don't get crushed slowly, you get crushed like a can under a boot. And while that's happening, you're cooking. The surface sits at around 465 degrees Celsius. That's hotter than an oven set to self-clean. That's hot enough to melt lead into a puddle. Here's the part that breaks people's brains. Venus is farther from the sun than Mercury, and it's still hotter because all that carbon dioxide traps the heat and never lets it leave. It's a greenhouse that ran away and never came back, so you're being flattened, you're being roasted, and then, just to be thorough, there's the acid. The clouds up above you are made of sulfuric acid. It falls as rain, but it's so hot down here that the rain boils away before it ever reaches the ground. A whole sky trying to drip acid on you, and it can't even get to you, because your corner of Venus is too hot for acid to survive. We know exactly how fast this happens because we've sent machines. The old Soviet Venera landers touched down built like tanks, and Venus ate them in minutes. The toughest one lasted about 2 hours before the planet simply switched it off. You would not last 2 hours, you would not last 2 minutes. Venus doesn't want to fight, it wants a smear. And here's the thing to hold on to, because you're going to need it later. Venus is the closest planet to us, the one we call our twin. If this is what close to home looks like, you should probably be nervous about where we're going next. Number 2, Mercury. Mercury is a rock the size of a slightly ambitious moon, sitting closest to the sun, and you'd think the danger here is heat. It's not. The danger here is that there's nothing at all. Mercury has basically no atmosphere. None. No air to breathe, no pressure to hold your body together, nothing between your skin and open space. So before the temperature does anything interesting, the vacuum has already started on you. The moisture on your eyes and your tongue begins to fizz. Your lungs have nothing to pull in. You've got maybe 15 seconds of useful consciousness, and then Mercury doesn't need to try anymore. But let's say you had a suit. Let's say you could stand there and look around. Then you'd get to see the truly strange way this place could kill you. Because with no atmosphere to move heat around, Mercury splits itself in half. The side facing the sun climbs to around 430 degrees Celsius. The side in shadow drops to minus 180. And the line between them, the border between day and night, is called the Terminator. You could stand on that line. 1 foot in blazing daylight hot enough to cook you. 1 foot in a darkness cold enough to freeze the air out of your body. The same rock. The same moment. A planet that can't decide whether to burn you or freeze you. So it offers both, and lets you pick which foot goes first. Above you, the sun hangs enormous, 3 times bigger than it looks from your backyard. Silent and white and way too close. There's no wind. There's no sound. There's just a line on the ground, where the universe changes its mind about you. Mercury is the smallest planet. It is also the one that shows you, in the clearest possible terms, that the real killer out here was never the heat or the cold. It was the nothing. And nothing is a theme. Number 3, Mars. This is the one you should actually be scared of. Not because it's the deadliest. Because it's the one we're really going to. Everyone talks about Mars like it's the backup plan. A little cold, a little dusty, a fixer-upper. So, let's be honest about what standing on Mars without a suit actually does to you, because it's quieter and slower and somehow worse than the loud deaths. The air on Mars is almost nothing. The pressure is about 1% of what you're breathing right now. And there's a line in physics called the Armstrong limit, the point where the pressure drops so low that the water in your body starts to boil at your own body temperature. Mars sits roughly 10 times below that line, which means the water in you doesn't need heat to boil, it just needs to be on Mars. So the saliva on your tongue starts to bubble, the moisture on your eyes fizzes, the soft wet lining inside your lungs begins to turn to vapor. This actually happened to a man in 1965 in a NASA test chamber when his suit failed in near vacuum. The last thing he remembered before he passed out was the feeling of the spit on his tongue starting to boil. You don't explode. That's the movie version, and it's wrong. What really happens is your body swells as the gases inside you expand. You lose consciousness in about 15 seconds from lack of oxygen, and then the cold, around 60 below, quietly finishes what the vacuum started. And even if you had a suit, Mars has one more surprise in the dirt. The dust is full of chemicals called perchlorates. Breathe them in over months and they go after your thyroid. They poison your blood. They turn the most Earth-like planet we've got into a slow chemical hazard. This is the world we're planning to build cities on. The friendly one. The one in the brochure. And it would kill you with the moisture in your own mouth. Number 4. Jupiter. Here's where the rules change completely. Everything before this had ground. Something to stand on, even if standing on it was a mistake. Jupiter doesn't give you that. Jupiter takes the floor away. Jupiter is a gas giant, and that phrase sounds soft until you understand what it means for you specifically. It means there is no surface. There's nowhere to land. You fall toward Jupiter, and you keep falling. And there is never a moment where you arrive. You just go deeper. At first, it almost feels like flying. You drop through the top clouds, those beautiful cream and orange bands you've seen in every photo. Then the air around you thickens. It stops feeling like falling and starts feeling like sinking, like the sky is turning into liquid. The pressure climbs, and keeps climbing, past anything your body could ever hold against, squeezing you smaller and tighter as you sink into a planet that has no bottom for you to hit. Long before you'd reach anything solid, you're gone, crushed, then heated, then vaporized into the same gas you were falling through. Deeper down, the pressure gets so insane that hydrogen stops behaving like a gas and turns into liquid metal. At the very center, you'd be under something like 650 million pounds of pressure on every square inch. Numbers stop meaning anything down there. Your body certainly does, and the whole time you're falling, off in the distance, there's the great red spot. A storm bigger than the entire Earth, spinning for centuries, wider than the planet you came from. You fall past it like a speck past a hurricane the size of a world. There's no crater on Jupiter with your name on it. There's no impact. There's just a long, quiet, endless drop into a planet that simply closes over you like water over a dropped stone. And you were never going to hit the bottom, because for you, there isn't one. Number 5, Saturn. Saturn is the pretty one. The rings, the soft gold color, the planet on the poster, and Saturn will drop you into the exact same bottomless fall as Jupiter, except it adds wind. The winds on Saturn scream around the planet at up to 1,800 kilometers an hour. That's not a storm. That's faster than the speed of sound, wrapped around an entire world, with no surface anywhere to slow it down. You fall into that, and you're not a person anymore. You're debris in a jet stream that never stops. And like Jupiter, there's no floor. You sink through the gold clouds into thickening haze, the wind tearing at you, the light fading, the pressure building. Somewhere in there, the planet does something almost beautiful, if it weren't happening to you. Lightning rips through the clouds and it breaks carbon loose from the gas, and that carbon drifts down as soot. And deeper still, under enough pressure, some scientists think it squeezes into diamonds. So there might be a layer of Saturn where it quite literally rains diamonds through the dark. You will not be alive to see it. You'll be long gone by then, crushed somewhere in the upper fall. And here's the part that makes Saturn real instead of hypothetical. We've already killed something here. In 2017, after 13 years of exploring, a spacecraft called Cassini ran low on fuel, and NASA chose to fly it straight into Saturn on purpose. It fell exactly the way you would fall. It broke apart, burned up, and became part of the planet's atmosphere. We have a recording of a machine dying inside a gas giant. That's not a scary story. That's a mission report. So Saturn is the beautiful one, and the beautiful one will spin you at supersonic speed through a diamond-lit dark and then let you fall until there's nothing left of you to fall. Number 6, Uranus. If the last 2 planets killed you loud, this one kills you cold and quiet. Uranus holds a record nobody wants. It has the coldest atmosphere of any planet in the solar system, dropping to around minus 224 degrees Celsius. That's colder than Neptune, which is farther away, and that shouldn't make sense until you realize Uranus has almost no warmth left inside it. It's a planet that gave up its own heat a long time ago and just went numb, and it's lying on its side. Every other planet spins more or less upright like a top. Uranus rolls around the sun tipped over at almost 90 degrees so that its poles take turns pointing straight at the sun. That gives it seasons that last more than 20 years each. 20 years of daylight, then 20 years of solid dark. Imagine a night that lasts longer than most people's marriages. You'd fall into it the way you fell into the others, no surface to catch you, just a slow sink through pale blue-green haze. Except here it's silent, and it's freezing. And instead of rain, you get something even stranger. Deep in the clouds, ammonia freezes into soft, slushy hailstones, mush balls, drifting down through the fog around you as you descend. You sink through freezing mist and falling slush toward a mantle of hot, exotic ice that behaves like nothing you've ever touched. There's no drama here, no supersonic scream, no glowing acid, no lightning. Uranus just wraps you in the coldest air in the solar system and lets you go numb and quiet and down into a planet that's been ignoring the sun for billions of years and is perfectly happy to ignore you too, which almost makes the next one feel personal. Because Neptune is just as cold, and Neptune is furious. Number 7. Neptune. Neptune is the last real planet. The deep blue one, so far away it's almost invisible from here, nearly 3 billion miles from the sun. And out there in the dark and the cold, where you'd expect everything to be still and frozen and slow, Neptune is doing the most violent thing any planet in the solar system does. It has the fastest winds we have ever measured anywhere, around 2,000 kilometers an hour. Some estimates push it higher. That's faster than the speed of sound out on a planet that gets almost no light and almost no heat from the sun. The winds have no business being this fast. There's barely any sunlight to drive them. Neptune makes its own violence from the heat buried deep inside it, and it aims all of that at the thin blue outer air where you'd arrive. So the death here is fast. Before the cold gets you, before the pressure gets you, the wind gets you. You'd be caught and torn and flung through the atmosphere at supersonic speed, a leaf in a hurricane that dwarfs every hurricane Earth has ever had. Our worst storms top out around 300 kilometers an hour. Neptune laughs at that number, and if somehow you survive the wind, you'd get the same ice giant ending as Uranus. Diamond rain, this time actually recreated in a lab in 2017, so we know it's real. And below that, a scalding ocean of strange, hot, crushing ice that isn't ice like you know it at all. Cold planet. Farthest planet. And it kills you with speed. That's the contradiction that makes Neptune so unsettling. The most distant, frozen, forgotten world in the family is also the angriest. It's been out there in the dark for 4.5 billion years, spinning up the fastest winds in the solar system, waiting for absolutely nothing. Number 8. Pluto. I know. Pluto isn't technically a planet anymore, but a lot of us grew up counting it as the 9th. And honestly, if you want to understand loneliness as a way to die, you have to go all the way out to Pluto. Out here, the sun isn't the sun. It's a bright star. Just one more pinprick of light among all the others, so faint that noon on Pluto is about as bright as evening twilight back home. There's no warm circle in the sky. There's a spark, and it does nothing for you. The temperature is around minus 230 degrees Celsius. That's so cold the ground under your boots isn't rock and isn't water ice. It's frozen nitrogen, the same stuff you're trying and failing to breathe, laid out in vast pale plains. And when we finally sent a probe out there, a little spacecraft called New Horizons, in 2015, it found something almost tender. A huge region shaped like a heart. Glaciers of nitrogen ice that actually flow slowly, like something alive. The heart even seems to beat in a way, as the ice warms and freezes and pumps faint winds around the whole frozen world. But that heart is not for you. You'd freeze here without a struggle, no crushing, no burning, no screaming wind, just cold and silence and dark, and the slow certainty of your body going hard and still. You'd become a statue on a plain of frozen air at the edge of everything we know, with home reduced to a dot you'd have to squint to find. That's the horror of Pluto. Not violence, distance. It's the death that reminds you exactly how far the universe is willing to let you drift and how little it would notice. And once you've felt that, there's really only one place left that can kill you bigger. Number 9. The sun. Everything so far has been a place you could fall onto or into. The sun isn't a place, the sun is the ending. You don't land on the sun. You never even get close. The surface of it, the part we can see, glows at around 5,500 degrees Celsius, and that's the cool part. Above that surface is the corona, the sun's outer atmosphere, and for reasons physicists still cannot fully explain, the corona is hundreds of times hotter than the surface below it. Millions of degrees. The outside of the sun is hotter than the top of the sun, and nobody has completely solved why. It's one of the biggest open mysteries in all of space, sitting right there in the thing that keeps us alive. You would not experience any of this as an event. There's no falling, no burning up in a dramatic streak. You would simply cease to be solid. Every atom holding you together would be ripped apart and turned into glowing plasma, the same stuff the sun is made of long before you got anywhere near the surface. You wouldn't arrive at the sun. You would become a tiny, brief part of it. We know how close a body can get because we built something to try. The Parker Solar Probe flew closer to the sun than anything in history, about 6 million kilometers, moving at nearly 700,000 kilometers an hour, the fastest human thing ever made. And it only survived because it hid behind a heat shield built to take temperatures that would vaporize you instantly. You don't have that shield. You have skin. So the sun is the one death on this list with no body left over, no frozen statue, no crushed shape sinking through gas, nothing, just light, and the sun quietly turning you into more of itself. Number 10, Earth. You've now died 9 times, crushed on Venus, frozen and boiled on Mercury, bubbled away on Mars, fallen forever into Jupiter and Saturn, gone numb on Uranus, shredded on Neptune, turned to a statue on Pluto, and vaporized into the sun. 9 worlds, 9 ways to end. And then there's this one. Earth doesn't kill you, that's the whole trick of this video. You go on this tour, world after world, each one finding a new and creative way to erase a human body, and then you come home to the 10th planet, and the horror flips completely around. Because the 10th planet is the only place in the entire solar system where you can just stand outside with no suit, no shield, no plane, and simply keep breathing. Think about how insane that is now that you've seen the alternatives. The air is exactly the pressure your body needs, so nothing boils and nothing crushes. The temperature sits in the narrow little band where water stays liquid and blood stays warm. There's a magnetic field wrapped around the whole planet, invisible, quietly deflecting the same solar radiation that would sterilize any of the other worlds. Every single thing that murders you everywhere else is right here, just switched off. And here's the part that should actually get under your skin. All of that protection is unbelievably thin. The layer of air keeping you alive, the difference between you and Venus, between you and the sun, between you and every death you just watched, is a shell of atmosphere thinner compared to the planet than the skin on an apple. You are not safe because the universe is safe. You are safe because you happen to be standing on the one fragile exception, behind the thinnest possible wall, in an ocean of things that would kill you in seconds. 9 planets try to teach you how easy you are to end. Earth is the only one keeping the secret that you're still here at all. And it's holding that line with nothing but a sliver of blue air you've never once thanked it for. Look up sometime. That thin, bright edge on the horizon is the whole reason you got to watch this and set a star in it.